On Friday's show, I cleared up the apparent non-conference scheduling discrepancy for the Tar Heels. At least I thought I did. Turns out, dead wrong.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, it's Monday, June 24th, 2024. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade, and you're joining us at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. Thanks for making us your first listen or watch. Special shout outs go to all you everydayers and all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, well, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, gang, coming up on the show today, we're not going to be talking about this really today, but a reminder that it is NBA draft week, so we'll know where Harrison Ingram is off to. But legitimately coming up today that we're going to talk about is once and for all, I will now clear up the non-conference scheduling discrepancy. I dug in, did the research this weekend, and found that there's a loophole. And so we'll unpack that. Got some early preseason accolades for some Carolina football players. Want to talk about that. And a Carolina track and field star has an opportunity tonight to make the Olympic team. So we're going to talk about all that. Okay, let me get us up to date accurately and appropriately on the non-conference scheduling. Here's basically what I said about it on Friday's show to set it up. I said that Carolina had their 11 non-con games figured out, non-conference games. That's typically what we're looking at because you're allowed to play 31 regular season games. You have 20 ACC games, and that leaves 11 non-conference games. So we already had those, but then there was an announcement of Carolina hosting Campbell on December 29th. That didn't come from Carolina directly, but Made for March, a very reputable Twitter source for scheduling news for college basketball. But because of that Campbell news coming out, I figured, hey, look, something's got to be wrong here. And that something, as it turns out, was moi. Yours truly, Isaac, was the one in the wrong. Now, to be fair, there were quite a few folks confused. Everyone I talked to didn't have the answer I'm about to give you. And we all said, as I said on Friday's show, well, maybe it means that McNeese is getting edged out. Maybe that's what's happening here is Carolina's not actually going to play them now. Just as a reminder of the 11 games that we had even before the Campbell game. And in fact, as we get ready to talk about it, I'll pull it up so you can see it for those of you watching on the YouTube machine. If you're not watching on the YouTube machine, that's okay. You're not missing out. This is on my Twitter feed as well, and you can go find it there. But Carolina has a multitude of events. Maui, where they'll play 3 games, ACC SEC Challenge, where they'll play another, Jumpman, CBS Sports Classic. That gets you up to 6. Kansas, the home and home with Kansas starts this year at Kansas. That's 7. And then Carolina had 3 other home non-conference games. The Elon game to start the season, hosting American on Friday, November 15th, and then the LaSalle game on Saturday, December 14th. But also playing at Hawaii ahead of the Maui Invitational. And so when this Campbell news comes out, it's like, something's wrong because that's 12 non-conference games, which means 32 games in totality. So I don't know what's off, but something's off and we got to figure it out. Well, here's what you need to know. Here's what I discovered over the weekend. Actually, something's not off. Carolina is going to play 12 non-conference games. What? Is that confusing? Let me explain to you. I went into research mode. Isaac Shade, researcher extraordinaire. You all know, if you're a longtime listener, watcher of the show, you know that I love to get into the research, dig into stats, dig into rule books and things like that. If you're a newcomer, welcome. This is what I do. I'm a dork and I'm here for it. So I went to the Division I manual, the D1 manual, which basically is not, there's like a basketball rules book. There's one of those for each sport, but the D1 manual is just like kind of a more general manual that provides rules and regulations for all sorts of things governing all the sports, but it does have specific sections for each of the sports in terms of like regulations for scheduling. And that's exactly where I went for this. So I'm going to pull up, for those of you watching on YouTube, a very certain page from the D1 manual from last year. Again, for those of you not watching, for those of you listening, you can actually go find this page. And I've even highlighted the pertinent information for you on it on my Twitter feed as well. So go look at that. But basically, in the basketball section of the D1 manual, there's a rule in quote unquote the annual exemptions section. This is section, you ready for this? 17.4.5.6.F. which allows for, quote, one regular season game in Hawaii or Alaska versus a member institution located in that state, end quote, which, open quote, and this is point F, that was point F, and this is like the main point, open quote, may be exempted from an institution's maximum number of conquests, end quote. Conquests. What am I, Ferdinand Magellan over here? Contests is what we're exempting, not conquests. We don't want to exempt the conquests. So what that jargon that I just read to you basically says is if a team goes to Hawaii or Alaska mainland and plays in that state, an NCAA member institution located in that state, they can exempt one game from their maximum number of contests. Meaning, if your maximum number of contests, North Carolina Tar Heels, for this upcoming season is 31, then now you can play 32. And so what you're looking at, if you're looking at it on my Twitter feed or watching it in real time on YouTube, is just page 245 from last year's D1 manual. It's been the same for multiple years on this, and it will be this year. So typically, if you're allowed 31 conference games, 31 regular season games. Again, ACC has 20. That means you've got 11 non-conference games. But because of this exception, which Carolina, they haven't come out and said it yet, but look, I'm doing the math. I'm putting it all together for you here. Carolina is taking advantage of that exception and is going to play 32 regular season games. They'll play their 20 ACC games plus the 12 non-conference games. 20 plus 12 is 32. You think this is odd? Think it's weird? Well, guess what? The Tar Heels have done it before. And in fact, it was a very good year for the Tar Heels. It was 2016-17 season. And I thought back to this. I was like, as I read this exception, I realized, you know what? This has probably happened before, but I just never put the pieces together that that's what was happening. Because last time Carolina went to Maui in 2016-17, they stopped off at Hawaii on the way and played at Hawaii. That game, by the way, it tipped at 8 p.m. local time in Hawaii, 1 a.m. Eastern. So hope you're all staying up for that one. But that season, if you go back and look at it in the Carolina, record book or wherever you can find a Carolina schedule, ESPN, whatever, Carolina played 32 regular season games that year. ACC was still at 18 conference games then, so it was the 18 conference games plus 14 non-conference games. So all this to say, I was wrong last week when I said, something's got to be amiss here. Maybe we're moving the LaSalle game to next year or something like that. No. Carolina is going to be keeping the LaSalle game and adding the Campbell game, but it's not because of either of those. It's because of the exemption with playing at Hawaii in Hawaii, right? Playing against Hawaii in Hawaii just doesn't count against your maximum. And so Carolina gets an extra basketball game. There you go. I've explained it. I hope it now makes sense to you, and it makes sense to me. If it doesn't make sense to you, reach out. I would be more than happy to talk to you about it one-on-one and explain it and help you wrap your brain around what's going on. Now, I do, though, want to now have a conversation about, all right, So Isaac, you're telling me Carolina is playing an extra basketball game more than anybody else gets to do. What are the ramifications of that? What are the effects that that's going to have on the Tar Heels? Great question, random show listener watcher. We're going to talk about that and unpack that question coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about FanDuel. Look, I love sports. You know this. I love all sorts of sports: basketball, football, baseball, Olympics, whatever it is, I'm all in on it. I love them and I never want them to stop. But unfortunately, as the playoffs wind down for NBA and NHL, we get fewer games. Really, baseball is about all we got left right now. And the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you got to do is open up the app, dream up bets anytime that you're in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel, get this, is hooking up every customer with a boost or a bonus daily, every day. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. How about the World Series odds? I know it's only June and that's in November, but hear me out. Current World Series odds: Yankees lead the way plus 280, Dodgers lead the way at plus 280, followed by the Yankees at plus 450, Phillies plus 550, the Braves, who just took a weekend series from New York at plus 900, and the Orioles round out the top 5 at plus 950. If you want to get in on that action or anything else baseball related, head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Pull back up your handy dandy non-con schedule that I've made for you. Get it on Twitter if you're listening. Just look at the screen if you're watching on YouTube, because it's right there. Because what we want to talk about now is, all right, Isaac, if the Tar Heels are indeed playing these 12 non-conference games, total of 32 regular season games, what does it mean? What does this hold for the Tar Heels? Well, obviously, it's an extra game. One that, the players probably were aware of because they've been talking about it internally, but a lot of us probably didn't have on our Carolina scheduling bingo card this year, unless you already were, all up in on all this thing. So, unless a couple of things here, unless something changes with the conference scheduling that we don't expect to change, Carolina is not going to have much of a break that they would typically get for finals week. So as you look at it right now, you go from November 4th to 8th to 15th. So you get a Friday to Friday, and then 15th to 22nd. So that kind of mid-November slate, you're not playing midweek at all. You just go Friday, Friday, Friday. So that's not too bad. But however, that third Friday is the game at Hawai'I. And then that's Friday. And then on Monday, you start the Maui Invitational, and those 3 games are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So boom, 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 boom. But then you do, because of playing a multi-team event during Thanksgiving week, that's the front end of the week. Carolina doesn't play again until the next Wednesday when they host Alabama for ACC SEC. So that's nice. There's a week break right there. But then we expect it to be pretty chock-a-block full for a while here. Now, if you're looking at it, you might say, Isaac, hang on, there's 10 days from playing, hosting Alabama to hosting LaSalle. And you'd be right. Right now on the schedule, that looks like that Carolina plays Wednesday, December 4th, and not again until Saturday, December 14th when they host LaSalle. However, we are firmly expecting there to be an ACC game in there, either on Saturday, December 7th or Sunday, December 8th. And everything points to that game being away. So it's not this nice long break that maybe you're looking at thinking it would be. Now, again, there could be some ACC scheduling changes that end up coming out, but we don't expect there to be, and we've not heard of anything right now. And then from LaSalle to Florida, that's just, Saturday to Tuesday. Florida to UCLA, that's Tuesday to Saturday. And then Carolina will get a little bit bigger of a break during Christmas week. So they play UCLA on Saturday, December 21st in the CBS Sports Classic, and then host Campbell on Sunday, December 29th. So that's a nice bigger break, but nothing as full back during finals week as they've typically had recently. Another thing that's great about this is just more adding this, having these 12 games, just more opportunity to build and bond. You all know, if you're not just a Tar Heels fan, but a college basketball fan, how difficult it is in this day and age of the transfer portal era and still bringing in freshmen to really form a cohesive unit unless you're just bringing everybody back and not bringing anybody else in new. But Carolina, like so many schools around the country, is going to have to do that. So the more opportunities they have to play in non-con, the more ready they'll be come ACC time. And that is definitely a good thing. And so building and bonding using these 12 games is great. Perhaps to me, the best news is that this is a fourth non-con home bye game. And I need to specify all that because they will obviously have home games in the conference schedule. They obviously have another non-conference home game in Alabama, but that's not a bye game. That's the ACC SEC Challenge. And so this whole time before the Campbell announcement, I'd been under the assumption or impression or whatever you want to say that, oh, shoot, since we're playing that game, we're only going to have 3 non-conference bye games at home. And then one that takes up this other spot of it is the game at Hawaii. But no, it's actually still going to be true that Carolina now gets to play 4 non-conference home bye games like they've typically done in recent history. And so this is really good news. The LaSalle game is split further back than it typically would be. Usually, or at least last year, there were 3 bye games pretty much right off the top. But this year, those are spread out a little bit. You do get Elon and American pretty early on, but then LaSalle kind of later, and then Campbell, similar to Charleston Southern last year, right at the very end of the non-conference schedule before the main chunk of ACC play. So that's some really good news. And the other thing, I like that the guys have 8 days off from, at least in terms of gameplay. I don't know what the coaching staff's going to do with them yet, but they've got from the 21st to the 29th. So you get most of Christmas week off, basically. And then you play again the Sunday right after Christmas, the Campbell game. And that, folks, is going to be an incredibly well-attended basketball game. I'm just telling you right now. It's between Christmas and New Year's. Families are in town. It's a weekend. It's a whole thing. And as our friend Brandon Mayberry and I were DMing about on Twitter over the weekend, he said playing Campbell on December 29th also lines up with the holiday clinic Carolina normally does the weekend after Christmas. That's an NIL opportunity now for the players so they can do the clinic on 12/28 and the Campbell game the next day, possibly an early afternoon game. It's also a very popular game for families to attend. Last year's game against Charleston Southern was packed. And so all great points there. It's almost like when you're trying to line up recruiting visits in the fall with homecoming and or live action or things like that. It's like, hey, let's line this game up with the holiday clinic and all sorts of stuff, and we'll just make a weekend of it. Man, that's great. Great news. Great idea by everyone. And then right after this Campbell game, probably that's Sunday the 29th. I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina plays what's technically their second ACC game, but the first one of that main chunk some point that next week. I should have looked. I'm thinking in real time here that's what Carolina did last year. Was remember they had those 3 ACC road games right off the top, and I'm guessing one of them came, if I remember correctly, right after that Charleston Southern game. Let's see, Charleston Southern on that one was a Friday, December 29th. Obviously leap year, so this one's on Sunday. But last year they played Charleston Southern Friday and then at Pittsburgh on Tuesday, January 2nd. So I wouldn't be surprised if Carolina plays this game against Charleston Southern. That was last year, against Campbell on Sunday the 29th. And then maybe sometime that next week, Tuesday or Wednesday, something of that nature, plays an ACC game. So be nice, especially if it's a road game, to get a little more, maybe it's the next Saturday or something like that. So we'll wait and see. But anyway, thankfully, having this 12th game doesn't add any more travel than we already thought it would be. It's just a home game, meaning the Campbell game added. And so that's great. So good news, Carolina just gets more opportunities to play and learn one another and be together. And I think all in all, That's great news for the Tar Heels. Now, speaking of great news for the Tar Heels, we are getting closer to football season, and that's great news, but it's still going to be so weird playing Carolina football without Drake May. And I know it's just been 2 years of him under center, but still, it's like no Drake May. But let me tell you, folks, there were a ton of other Tar Heels that are ready to go, ready for action. And some of them are already getting some preseason notoriety and award nominations. We're going to talk about that, what it means, and a little Olympic update for you. All that coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about eBay Motors, passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers to roof racks, from exhaust kits to LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed or power or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you're always going to find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your parts guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Why? Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. So keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. North Carolina puts 2 Tar Heels on Phil Steele's preseason All-American teams and 6 players on Phil Steele's preseason All-ACC teams. And let me run you through those in case you hadn't caught those yet. And obviously there will be more things of this type that come out, but Phil Steele does a great job. And I always am curious to see what he's going to say in his big preseason almanac, basically, that he puts out. So All-American nods. I said 2. Did I say 2? If I said 2, I meant 3 because there's 3. And we got a first team nomination, and that you can probably, well, maybe you might be waffling between 2 people. If I were you, I might be waffling between Omarion Hampton and Kaimon Rucker. And the answer is Omarion Hampton. First team All-American preseason running back for Phil Steele. You love to see that, right? Because we talk about it. We're like, dude, O is like the dude, right? We think nationally, it's like, hello, America, are you in there? Omarion Hampton's awesome. But it's nice to see that other people are wrapping their brains around this, realizing what an absolute dude he was last year. Let's first say that, and how much Carolina expects to ride their bell cow again this season, especially now without Drake May at quarterback. But Carolina also has 2 fourth-team All-American preseasons for Phil Steele, and that is Kaimon Rucker, along with tight end Bryson Nesbit. Remember, that tight end room is still locked and loaded and ready to go. So then 6 All-ACC preseason players for Phil Steele. 4 of them on the first team from North Carolina. That's good, y'all. I'm just telling you. I'll say that in a second. So the first teamers, the 3 we've already mentioned for All-American, are all first team preseason All-ACC. Hampton, Bryson Nesbit, and Kaimon Rucker. They're joined by Elijah Huzzie. Interestingly, though, it's as a punt returner, not as a cornerback. And so, I'm very excited for Elijah Huzzie this year. I can't wait to see what he does. Second team preseason All-ACC is Power Eccles, linebacker. And then third team is Willie Lampkin, Carolina's kind of undersized offensive lineman. And so excited to see what Willie does this year. And as you look at this, it's like, look, y'all, I know that Drake May is gone. I hear that. But I think that the defense, and we're actually talking about this in the Locked on Tar Heels Discord on Sunday afternoon. I think Carolina's defense is going to be much improved this year under Jeff Collins. I feel good about it. I hope you do too. And yes, I think the expectations for the offense, the ceiling for the offense is lower than it was last year coming into the year. And just about anything would be, because the expectations coming into last year were just astronomically high, at least until the Des Walker is suspended or isn't eligible news, whatever. This offense, I believe, is still going to be good. They've got a bunch of good pieces. You just got to hand the ball off to Omarion Hampton. You've got great tight ends. You've got some veterans, but also some splashy, exciting freshman receivers. I think the line should be able to hold it. I think the offense is going to be okay. The ceiling might not be as good, but I think in totality, Carolina as a team is going to be better. And you see that recognized in these teams. So that's some of what all of this tells me, this recognition from Phil Steele. All right, let's move quickly to the Olympics and then we'll get out of here. You might, if you're not aware, you need to be aware. The U.S. Olympic trials are going on right now for several of the different sports. NBC has been showing at night, basically from 7 to 11 Eastern time, an hour of diving trials at 7 to 8, an hour of swimming trials from 8 to 9, and then track and field from 9 to 11. So Sunday night was the men's 100 final. So if you didn't see that, you missed out. Anyway, y'all, you need to know, if you haven't been with us for a while, I love the Olympics. I'm all in on the Olympics all the time. And I cannot wait for what's going to happen in the Olympics. But, and there will be several Tar Heels there. One of who might get to go is Ethan Strand, who made the finals on Saturday in the 1,500 meter run at those trials. On Saturday was the semifinals. He finished third in his heat. You just had to be top 5 in your heat to qualify. And so that was great. And basically he was tied with the dude from Villanova for second, but he was third. But I don't think Strand, with all due respect to Ethan, he's kind of on the outside looking in. There's some absolute dudes, Jared Goose, who's like the American record holder, Cole Hawker. Those guys are the favorites. There are 3 spots available. So who knows what could happen in this race. But just excited for Ethan to go out on this stage, race in an Olympic trials finals. I mean, that's a big deal when you are like in an Olympic sport. And so big congrats to Ethan and everyone else working to make Olympic squads for Team USA and others out there. We got a lot of great stuff. So if you're an Olympics person, let me know. I'd love to celebrate Olympics with you. We've just added an Olympics chat in the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, so it's going to be a lot of fun keeping tabs on everything Paris that's coming up. All right, gang, that's it for today's show for Monday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Great to be together. Hope you had a great weekend. Looking forward to another hot. It is so hot in Southwest Missouri right now, y'all. I am dying. It's going to be very hot, and I'm actually going down to Birmingham and then Atlanta next week. So it's only going to be hotter and muggier. Gross. Anyway, in the meantime, if you haven't subscribed to our show on audio and video, make sure you do that. Very easy to do. If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord family, we'd love to have you. Come for the Tar Heels, stay for the community. The link for that is in the show notes. It's free to join. Why wouldn't you? It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.